Most people grow up hearing the same advice over and over again. Pick one thing, focus on one path, choose one career and stick to it for the rest of your life. Teachers say it, parents repeat it, and society rewards it. From a young age, you are pushed into a system that believes success only belongs to specialists, people who dedicate their entire life to mastering one narrow field. And if you happen to be someone who is curious about many different things, suddenly you're labeled as distracted, confused, or unfocused. But the truth is something very different. Having many interests is not the problem. The real problem is that most people never learn how to turn those interests into a strategy. Think about it for a moment. Curiosity is one of the most powerful human traits. It is the reason innovation exists. It is the reason industries evolve. Every successful entrepreneur, creator, and leader you admire started with curiosity. They asked questions. They explored ideas. They experimented with different paths. Yet somewhere along the way, society started convincing people that curiosity is a weakness unless it fits neatly into one category. If you are someone who finds yourself fascinated by different subjects, business, psychology, technology, fitness, communication, creativity, that doesn't mean you're lost. It means your mind is active. It means you are constantly searching for connections and opportunities. The problem isn't that you have too many interests. The problem is that nobody ever taught you how to organize them. Most people move through life randomly. They chase whatever feels exciting in the moment. One week they are passionate about one thing. The next week something else grabs their attention. Without direction, this creates frustration. It feels like progress never happens because energy is scattered everywhere. But that scattered energy is not useless. It simply needs structure. Imagine your interests as pieces of a puzzle. Individually, they might look unrelated. One piece might represent communication. Another might represent business. Another might represent creativity or technology. At first, these pieces seem separate, almost chaotic. But when you begin to place them in the right positions, something powerful starts to form. Suddenly, those interests stop competing with each other and start supporting each other. People who only have one interest often follow a predictable path. They become skilled in a single area, and that skill becomes their entire identity. But people with multiple interests have access to something much more valuable: perspective. When you explore different fields, you begin to see patterns others miss. You understand problems from multiple angles. You develop the ability to connect ideas that specialists would never think to combine. The real advantage of having many interests is the ability to create unique combinations of knowledge. In today's world, the people who stand out are rarely those who only know one thing. They are the ones who understand how different skills interact with each other. They can communicate better, adapt faster, and recognize opportunities before everyone else notices them, but this only becomes powerful when there is a clear direction. Without strategy, curiosity feels like wandering in circles. With strategy, curiosity becomes a tool for building something bigger. Instead of asking yourself which interest you must abandon, the better question becomes how those interests can eventually work together. Many people spend years trying to suppress their curiosity because they think it makes them inconsistent. They try to force themselves into a single path that doesn't truly excite them. Over time, this creates boredom and frustration because they are ignoring a fundamental part of how their mind works. The goal should never be to eliminate curiosity. The goal should be to guide it. When you begin to look at your interests as potential assets rather than distractions, your mindset changes completely. Instead of feeling guilty for wanting to explore different ideas, you begin to analyze how each interest could contribute to your growth. Curiosity stops being random exploration and starts becoming intentional discovery. People who succeed with multiple interests don't run away from their curiosity. They learn how to direct it. They turn exploration into learning, learning into skills, and skills into opportunities. Over time, those opportunities begin to connect, forming a path that is uniquely their own. The truth is that the world doesn't need more people who think exactly the same way. It needs individuals who can combine ideas, build systems, and approach challenges differently. Having many interests means your mind naturally searches for those connections. It means you are constantly expanding your understanding of how things work. And when that curiosity is supported by strategy, it becomes one of the most powerful advantages a person can have. From the moment people enter the education system, they are quietly pushed toward a very specific way of thinking about their future. The system encourages one simple idea: choose a path early and stay on it no matter what. Students are asked questions like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" As if life is supposed to be a single straight road with no turns, no exploration, and no evolution. The expectation becomes clear very quickly: pick one identity, build your entire life around it, and never look outside that lane. For many people, this pressure begins before they even understand themselves. Teenagers are expected to choose academic subjects that will shape their entire career. One decision about what to study can determine the opportunities they are offered for the next decade. Yet at that age, most people are still discovering their interests, their strengths, and how the world actually works. They are not choosing freely. They are choosing under pressure. Families, schools, and society all reinforce the same message. Stability comes from specialization. Respect comes from traditional careers. If someone studies medicine, engineering, law, or another established profession, everyone immediately understands their direction. There is a sense of certainty around it. But if someone explores multiple fields or wants to combine different skills, people become skeptical. Questions start appearing. Doubts begin to grow around them. Because of this pressure, most people accept the path they were placed on rather than the path that truly fits them. They stay in careers that no longer excite them simply because changing direction feels risky. They continue working in environments where their creativity and curiosity are limited, because stepping outside that path would mean starting again. Over time, what began as a single decision slowly turns into a lifelong routine. This is why so many talented people feel trapped in careers that do not reflect who they really are. They were told that success requires staying in one lane, so they stopped exploring other possibilities. The system rewards predictability, not experimentation. It values clear titles and simple job descriptions over complex combinations of abilities, but the modern world does not operate the same way it did decades ago. The internet, technology, and global connectivity have created opportunities that never existed before. Today, people can build careers that combine skills from completely different fields. Someone can understand business while also mastering communication, storytelling, technology, and personal branding. These combinations create influence and value that traditional paths often cannot match, yet many people never take advantage of this reality because they still think within the boundaries they were taught. They believe leaving a single path means failure, when in reality it can mean growth. They believe success requires staying in one role forever, when in reality it often comes from adapting and expanding. The truth is that some of the most successful individuals in the modern world did not follow a perfectly straight line. They experimented. They explored different industries. They learned from multiple environments and connected those experiences together. Their careers look unconventional from the outside, but when you study them closely, you see a pattern. Each experience added a layer of skill that eventually contributed to something bigger. People who have many interests often feel different because they naturally resist the idea of staying in one narrow lane. Their curiosity constantly pushes them to look beyond the obvious path. Instead of ignoring that instinct, it can become a powerful advantage when guided correctly. The ability to explore different areas of knowledge allows a person to build a broader understanding of how the world operates. When someone understands multiple disciplines, they begin to see opportunities others miss. They recognize how communication influences business decisions. They understand how psychology shapes marketing strategies. They notice how technology can amplify creativity and reach larger audiences. These insights appear because their mind is not limited to a single perspective. The challenge is not escaping the pressure to choose one path. The challenge is learning how to move forward while still allowing curiosity and exploration to exist. Instead of forcing yourself into a rigid identity, it becomes more productive to see your career as something that can evolve. Each interest, each skill, and each experience can become another layer in a larger structure that continues to grow over time. Curiosity is one of the most misunderstood traits a person can have. Many people treat it as a distraction, something that pulls you away from focus and discipline. If someone constantly asks questions, explores new ideas, or becomes interested in different fields, the immediate reaction from others is often criticism. They say things like, "You're doing too much," or you need to focus on one thing. Over time, people start believing that their curiosity is a weakness. They begin to think that being interested in many things means they lack direction, but curiosity is not the problem. In reality, curiosity is one of the most powerful forces behind growth, innovation, and success. Every major advancement in history started with someone asking questions. Every breakthrough, every discovery, every new idea began with a person who refused to stop exploring. Curiosity pushes the mind beyond what is already known. It challenges assumptions and forces people to look deeper into how things work. When someone is naturally curious, their brain constantly searches for connections. They observe patterns that others overlook. They explore ideas that most people ignore because those ideas seem unrelated at first glance. This kind of thinking creates a unique perspective on the world. Instead of seeing isolated pieces of information, a curious person starts to see systems forming between different fields of knowledge. Imagine someone who is interested in business, but also fascinated by psychology. At first, those interests might seem separate. But when curiosity is allowed to grow, the connection becomes obvious. Understanding psychology can completely transform how someone approaches marketing, negotiation, leadership, and persuasion. Suddenly, the combination of those interests creates a skill set that is far more powerful than studying business alone. Now, imagine that same person also becomes curious about communication. They start learning how to speak clearly, how to present ideas effectively, and how to tell stories that capture attention. That new layer of knowledge begins to amplify everything else they already understand. Their ideas spread faster because they know how to explain them. Their influence grows because people understand their message. Curiosity works like this across every area of life. When you allow yourself to explore different interests, your mind begins building bridges between them. These bridges create insights that are difficult to achieve through specialization alone. A specialist might know everything about one subject, but a curious thinker understands how multiple subjects interact with each other. This is why curiosity can become a superpower when it is used correctly. Instead of limiting yourself to a narrow range of knowledge, curiosity expands your awareness of how different systems operate. It allows you to move between disciplines and apply ideas from one field to another. That flexibility creates creativity, and creativity leads to innovation. However, curiosity only becomes powerful when it is directed toward growth and value. Random exploration without purpose can easily become distraction. Someone might spend hours consuming information without ever applying it. They jump from topic to topic, fascinated by everything but committed to nothing. In that situation, curiosity loses its strength because it never transforms into skill. The real power of curiosity appears when learning turns into action. When a curious person studies something and then begins experimenting with it in the real world, knowledge becomes practical. Ideas stop being abstract and start becoming tools. Each interest begins contributing something useful to the person's abilities. Curiosity also develops adaptability. The world changes constantly, industries evolve, and new opportunities appear every year. People who only understand one area often struggle when their environment shifts. But someone who has explored multiple interests can adjust much faster. Their knowledge is not confined to one narrow perspective. They understand different ways of thinking, different strategies for solving problems, and different methods for creating value. This adaptability becomes extremely valuable in the modern world. Technology, communication, and global markets are moving faster than ever before. The people who thrive in this environment are not always the ones who memorize the most information. They are the ones who remain curious, constantly learning, constantly connecting ideas, and constantly expanding their understanding of how the world works. When curiosity is embraced instead of suppressed, it transforms the way a person approaches challenges. Problems become puzzles waiting to be solved. Opportunities appear in places where others see obstacles. Learning stops feeling like an obligation and starts feeling like exploration. A curious mind never stops searching for deeper understanding. It keeps asking questions, examining patterns, and discovering relationships between ideas that once seemed unrelated. That constant search for knowledge gradually builds a perspective that is broader, more flexible, and more creative than the perspective of someone who only studies one subject. One of the biggest challenges for people who have many interests is not a lack of ideas. In fact, the opposite is usually true. Their mind is constantly generating possibilities. They discover new topics, new skills, new industries, and new opportunities almost every day. Their curiosity pulls them toward learning and exploring, and that exploration can feel exciting and productive. But there is a critical difference between learning about something and actually doing something with that knowledge. This is where many people get stuck. Exploration is comfortable. It feels safe because it happens mostly inside your mind. You read books, watch videos, study concepts, and imagine how things might work. Your brain absorbs information and creates scenarios of what success could look like. But none of this changes your reality unless it turns into execution. Knowledge by itself is only potential. It becomes powerful only when it is applied. Many people convince themselves that they are making progress simply because they are learning more. They move from one course to another, one idea to another, one strategy to another. They spend months preparing, researching, and analyzing every possible detail before taking action. The intention is good, but the result is stagnation. The more they explore, the more overwhelmed they become by the number of possibilities available to them. Execution is what separates people who dream from people who build. When you execute, you step outside the comfort of theory and enter the uncertainty of real experience. Suddenly, you are not just thinking about ideas, you are testing them. You are discovering what works, what fails, and what needs to change. This process creates real progress because it produces feedback that cannot be learned from observation alone. For someone with many interests, execution becomes even more important. Without it, curiosity can easily turn into endless wandering. You might learn about business but never start a project. You might study communication but never practice speaking publicly. You might read about entrepreneurship but never attempt to create something of your own. In each case, the knowledge remains trapped in theory rather than transforming into ability. Execution forces clarity. When you take action, you quickly discover which interests truly matter to you and which ones were simply temporary curiosity. Real work exposes the difference between fascination and commitment. Some ideas lose their appeal once you experience the effort required to pursue them, while others become even more exciting because you see the impact they can create. This process also builds confidence. Many people doubt their abilities because they have never tested themselves in the real world. They assume failure before even trying. But execution replaces assumptions with experience. Each attempt teaches something new. Each challenge strengthens problem-solving skills. Each small success creates momentum that pushes you forward. Another powerful effect of execution is that it reveals opportunities that cannot be seen from the outside. When you are actively building, working, or creating something, you enter environments where new connections appear. You meet people who share similar ambitions. You discover tools and strategies that accelerate your progress. You notice gaps in the market that others have not recognized. None of these opportunities appear while you remain in the stage of exploration alone. Execution also organizes your curiosity. Instead of chasing every interesting idea at the same time, action naturally forces you to prioritize. Time and energy become limited resources, so you begin focusing on the interests that produce real results. This focus does not eliminate curiosity. It channels it into productive directions. Learning becomes connected to real goals rather than random fascination. The difference between exploration and execution often determines whether someone remains a thinker or becomes a creator. Exploration opens doors, but execution walks through them. Exploration gathers knowledge, but execution turns knowledge into skill. Exploration imagines possibilities, but execution builds reality. People who succeed with multiple interests eventually understand that action must lead the process. Curiosity continues to provide inspiration, but every new idea is quickly tested through real effort. They experiment, adjust, and refine their approach while moving forward instead of waiting for perfect conditions. When action becomes the priority, progress starts accelerating. Interests begin transforming into abilities. Abilities begin creating results, and those results reveal even greater opportunities for growth and expansion. Most people think about their career as a single road. One job, one profession, one identity that defines everything they do. They imagine success as climbing a ladder in one specific direction, moving step by step within the same narrow field. But when you are someone who has many interests, that model often feels restrictive. It feels like trying to force a complex mind into a very small box. Instead of following a single road, A much more powerful approach is to build something different. A personal ecosystem of skills. An ecosystem is a system where different parts support each other. In nature, every element has a role. Trees provide oxygen, animals contribute to balance, water sustains life, and everything connects in ways that allow the entire environment to thrive. The same idea can apply to your career and personal development. Instead of seeing your interests as separate or competing with each other, you begin to organize them in a way where each one strengthens the others. Imagine someone who develops strong communication skills. They learn how to speak clearly, how to present ideas confidently, and how to capture attention when sharing a message. On its own, communication is valuable. But now imagine that same person also understands business. Suddenly, communication becomes a powerful tool for selling ideas, leading teams, negotiating deals, and building partnerships. The combination creates something much stronger than either skill alone. Now add another layer. Suppose that person also understands technology and digital platforms. Their communication can now reach thousands or even millions of people through online channels. Their business knowledge allows them to create products or services. Technology amplifies their reach and efficiency. What began as separate interests now forms a connected system where each ability multiplies the power of the others. This is the idea behind a personal ecosystem of skills. Every interest you develop becomes a component within a larger structure. Instead of asking which interest you must abandon, you start asking how each interest can contribute to the system you are building. Over time, these skills begin interacting in ways that create opportunities far beyond what a single skill could achieve. When you start building this kind of ecosystem, your thinking changes. You no longer learn randomly. Every new skill becomes part of a larger vision. If you learn psychology, you understand people better. If you learn marketing, you know how to reach them. If you develop creativity, you can design ideas that stand out. If you understand technology, you can scale your work and expand your influence. Each skill adds another layer of strength to the structure you are creating. Another powerful effect of building a skill ecosystem is resilience. When someone relies on only one skill or one job, their stability depends entirely on that single point. If the industry changes or the job disappears, they may struggle to adapt. But when someone has a connected network of abilities, they have multiple ways to create value. If one opportunity closes, another path can open because their skills are flexible and transferable. This ecosystem also creates uniqueness. In a world where millions of people compete in the same professions, standing out becomes extremely difficult if you only follow traditional paths. But when you combine skills from different areas, you create a profile that very few people can replicate. Your perspective becomes different. Your approach to solving problems becomes creative. Opportunities begin appearing because your combination of abilities allows you to offer something others cannot easily provide. Building this ecosystem takes time, patience, and intention. It requires paying attention to how your interests interact with each other. Instead of chasing every new idea endlessly, you gradually shape your abilities into a network that grows stronger with every skill you develop. Each experience adds knowledge, each skill adds capability, and each connection between them increases your overall potential. As the ecosystem expands, momentum begins to build. Communication strengthens business. Business supports creativity. Creativity attracts attention. Attention opens doors to new collaborations and projects. Everything becomes interconnected, and the system you have created starts producing results that are larger than the individual parts themselves. Over time, what once looked like scattered curiosity transforms into a structured, powerful foundation for growth. Interests evolve into skills, skills combine into systems, and those systems create a path that is unique to you and capable of expanding in ways that a single narrow career path could never achieve. Now, if you've been listening closely, you can start to see the bigger picture. Having many interests is not a weakness, it's a hidden advantage waiting to be harnessed. Society may try to convince you that focus means sticking to one path, but the truth is, the most successful people in the modern world are the ones who learn to connect ideas, combine skills, and adapt to opportunities that others overlook. Curiosity, when guided by strategy, becomes a superpower. It allows you to explore, innovate, and see patterns that specialists often miss. But exploration alone isn't enough. You must prioritize execution. Knowledge without action stays trapped in your mind. When you take steps, Experiment and test your ideas in the real world. You transform learning into real-world skills, confidence, and results. Each step you take reveals what truly matters to you and what can be turned into value. Execution is the bridge between potential and achievement, between thinking and creating, and as you continue building, don't just accumulate skills randomly. Organize them into a personal ecosystem where every ability supports the others. Communication amplifies business, business strengthens creativity, creativity fuels influence, and influence opens new opportunities. Each interest, each skill, and each experience becomes part of a larger system that grows stronger over time, creating a unique path that is entirely your own. The world doesn't need more people who follow the traditional route, staying safe in one lane. It needs thinkers, creators, and innovators, people who are willing to explore, act, and build connections across multiple fields. Your curiosity is your weapon, your execution is your engine, and your personal ecosystem is your platform for exponential growth. So don't shrink yourself to fit into society's narrow definitions. Embrace your multiple interests, take action relentlessly, and start connecting the dots between your passions. The moment you do that, you stop chasing random ideas and start building a life, a career, and a legacy that is truly unstoppable. Your curiosity isn't a distraction. It's the beginning of your greatest advantage. It's time to unlock it.